All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real music and the soap opera called As the REO Turns. And of course, doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and just like me. Last time, as we documented As the REO Turns, our heroes, REO Speedwagon, had broken up. Kevin Cronin had gone his own way, and Bruce Hall was wondering, what happened to my band, bro? It seems that Kevin Cronin had some explaining to do, and recently he sat down, or at least by phone, spoke to Eddie Trunk, otherwise known as the Trunkster, the guy who has a syndicated show where he interviews very old bands most of the time. So Kevin said this. So prior to 2024, trouble was brewing internally. Now, I took some notes here, so that's how I know certain things about what they spoke about here. Yeah, trouble was brewing. He didn't ever get specific on what kind of trouble was brewing. Bruce, of course, needed surgery on his back, but the band had shows to do. They had to do these shows, according to Kevin Cronin. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity to mention that 4 years ago, remember during the lockdowns, how easy it was for bands not to do shows? Remember, there was a floating particle. There was an alert that got sent out. We were under red alert or orange alert. Oh, well, never mind. That was the terrorist thing. But anyway, it's pretty similar, right? You had to have a QR code. Everything had to be wiped down with whatever, alcohol wipes or whatever they are. And bands canceled shows quite easily. Remember? Just cancel the whole tour. But according to Cronin, Bruce Hall kept missing deadlines. March 1st, he was supposed to come back on March 1st. That didn't happen. June 1st, that didn't happen. So Cronin says that through an attorney, Bruce chose to sit out 2024 so long as he got paid for the tour. Now, I find it interesting that there's absolutely no chemistry in these bands anymore. Absolutely zero. Okay, they all speak to one another through attorneys. The same thing happens with Journey when they get into a scuffle about money or whatever. One attorney talks to the other attorney, and letters go out. Steve Perry says, hey, you can't do that with my music. And that's how things get resolved. There's just no communications. So, any resemblance of band chemistry has gone out the window, except that later Kevin Cronin is going to tell you about how off the hook the new chemistry is. Maybe they actually speak to one another, and they don't have to hire an attorney in order to communicate. So anyway, March 1st, that didn't happen, meaning that Bruce didn't come back. June 1st, that didn't happen. Cronin says, though, that he was willing to accommodate Bruce Hall. This is new information. He also brags about this, the 2024 REO Speedwagon, being the best tour in 30 years. Now, he also said that Rick Springfield took over as keyboardist. I don't know if he meant to say that. They did tour with Rick Springfield, and I think I would have heard if Rick was playing keyboards in REO Speedwagon. I believe it was Derek Hilliard who was playing keyboards after the great Neil Dowdy decided to retire, and boy, did he get out at the right time. Cronin goes on to say he was willing to try a six-piece band with both Matt Bissonette and Bruce Hall, where they would alternate bass and acoustic guitars. Interesting. Cronin insists he never prevented Bruce Hall from coming back. and explains that it was just Bruce who didn't want to come back. My guess is maybe Bruce didn't want to share the stage with Bissonette for whatever reason. That might be on Bruce, or it might be something else. Again, Cronin said at the beginning of this talk with Eddie Trunk that trouble was brewing internally, but he never really elaborated on that. If that trouble had to do with Bruce needing back surgery, which I don't know how that's trouble other than it's humanity, this reminds me of how Dennis DeYoung needed some attention and left sticks and wasn't able to come back. Steve Perry had some stuff going on. He left Journey, and I think he wanted Journey to end at that point, but he didn't get his way, and the band continued on. But Perry got the greatest deal in the history of buyouts, or however you want to look at it. My guess is Bruce just didn't want to share the stage with Bissonette. He wanted to come back, and when he was ready to come back, Kevin Cronin said, look, we've had the best tour we've ever had, at least in the last 30 years. Now, what's interesting, though, is I'm not sure this makes any difference, really. For hardcore REO fans, many of you believe that REO ended when Gary Richrath left REO Speedwagon in 1989. Other people are upset because Kevin Cronin doesn't really sound like the Kevin Cronin of, say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And that can be a big deal. If you're used to hearing these songs on the radio, which we are still hearing 2 or 3 REO Speedwagon songs that they continue to play relentlessly, pretty much Keep On Loving You and Can't Fight This Feeling, right? Those are the 2 big ones they play on these soft rock stations these days. On the classic rock stations, I'm sure they're playing like Riding the Storm Out, or maybe they're playing Time for Me to Fly. There are a few songs that are still out there. But based on the band's catalog, by the way, REO Speedwagon did not get nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Styx didn't get nominated. Kansas didn't get nominated. Survivor didn't get nominated. So there are a bunch of bands out there that probably could have been nominated, but that's a whole other video. So basically this soap opera continues. There's no real resolution. There was no talk about possibly getting Bruce back in so REO can go out and do a farewell tour. This is like an old soap opera with washed up characters who are all fighting for the last dollar before people realize how bad they sound compared to what they are still hearing on the radio from their glory days. And yes, another edition of As the REO Turns is in the can and on the way to the Museum of Bad Broadcasting. So I appreciate the folks that hung with me here and are here on this channel. Those of you who are still finding me, I was lost and now I'm found. That's the way it is. When you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, you're lost and then you're found. And so that is probably the most important thing about this video, other than the fact that there's a constant soap opera going on. And it's basically who's still trying to be a rock band. It's interesting. Some of these bands, regardless of who's in it, if Bruce Hall comes back, REO still needs to hang it up. But they could do it gracefully, or they could do a never-ending farewell tour and then replace everybody and then just keep going as REO Speedwagon, and the original guys and their families and their estates, they can keep raking in the dough, because that is probably the most likely scenario, I would say, for the foreseeable future. Anyway, folks, God bless everyone, and stay safe out there. Maybe take a car instead of a plane. Just putting it out there.